Infinite Unity Theory. Author, Taha Givarian. This is a personal metaphysical model. It is not trying to insult or cancel any religion or worldview. It offers one possible way to think about existence, how we move from nothing to something, from unity to infinite multiplicity, and what this means for souls, worlds, and life after death. Religious pictures of God, heaven, and hell can be seen inside this model as special cases, not as enemies. You do not need any background in philosophy to follow it. Just keep three ideas in mind. 0 means absolute nothingness. 1 means a single, perfect source. Infinity means endless forms, worlds, and consciousnesses. Imagine before everything there was absolutely nothing. No personal God, no universe, no time, no space, no laws, not even probability or empty space. Just absolute nothingness. I represent this state as 0. But absolute nothing hides a logical problem. The moment we talk about nothing, we are already treating it as a kind of situation. It is as if there is something that is nothing. That is already a form of being. From this paradox comes the first move of the theory. 0, in order not to remain 0, is forced to become 1. Absolute nothingness cannot stably remain pure nothing, because remaining or being in a state is already a kind of being. So 0 inevitably slips into the smallest possible form of existence, the first distinction, a single point, a 1. In this theory, 0 stands for absolute non-being, and 1 stands for the very first, something that is, the primordial unity, the first real, there is. This one is not a tiny dot in space. It is a single, infinitely capacious reality that holds all possibilities within itself in potential form. It is complete, flawless, and beyond time and space. But the primordial unity faces a new paradox. If it is totally alone, it has no experience. Experience always requires some form of duality, observer and observed, self and world, I and other. At the same time, the essence of such a reality is awareness. Pure awareness that never experiences anything is like an eye that never sees. So the unity is in a deadlock. It cannot remain in total solitude with 0 experience, and it cannot deny its own nature as a witnessing consciousness. The resolution is the second move of the theory. The unity voluntarily divides itself into infinitely many centers of consciousness, without losing its essence. A helpful image is a beam of white light passing through a prism. One light splits into a spectrum of infinitely many colors, but the light itself is not destroyed. It is simply appearing in multiple distinct forms. In symbolic form, 1 is the primordial unity and infinity is infinitely many consciousnesses, states, and possible worlds. This division is generative, not destructive. Infinity, when it appears in infinitely many forms, is still infinity. The unity now can experience itself from endlessly many angles. At this stage, what we call soul appears. In this theory, a soul is a limited version of the same infinite awareness. In its root, the soul is the primordial unity. But 2 deliberate constraints are applied to it to make real experience possible. The first is the cosmic veil, a fundamental forgetting. The soul forgets that it is infinite awareness and experiences itself as a separate I, a finite person. The second is entry into a particular world with specific laws, a finite body, a linear timeline, spatial limits, and physical and biological rules. Why are these constraints necessary? Without forgetting, there is no real risk, surprise, or drama, because everything is fully known from the start. Without time, body, and limitation, pain and joy, failure and success, fall and growth would not have much depth. Limitation makes the game real. Like a video game, if there are no rules, no boundaries, and no way to lose or win, the game quickly becomes meaningless. From this perspective, the physical universe acts like a super machine for generating experience, a system of laws and conditions that lets souls live all kinds of life stories, love and loss, fear and courage, collapse and awakening. Existence becomes the stage on which consciousness watches itself through the eyes of finite beings. In this framework, death is not the end, it is a change of level. When the body stops functioning, the soul is released from the specific rules of this world and enters a realm with infinitely many possible paths. Those paths can look like heaven-like states, matching a person's deep inner image of paradise, hell-like states, reflecting fears, guilt, and unresolved inner conflicts, or more luminous, subtle states, reflecting the soul's growth, honesty, and awareness during life. The key principle is that consciousness does not only receive reality, it co-creates its final experience. Beliefs, intentions, and the inner quality of one's life all influence how post-mortem experience unfolds. A sincere believer, an honest doubter, a deep seeker, and a cruel manipulator will not walk into the same inner landscapes, even inside the same religion. Heaven and hell, in this model, are not one fixed place each. They are families of experiences inside an infinite space of possibilities. This theory is built around paradoxes, not against them. It treats them as tools and engines, not as threats. The paradox of zero asks, how can something come from absolute nothing? The answer is that absolute zero cannot remain zero without contradiction. To remain is already to be in a state. Therefore, zero, in order not to remain zero, is forced to become one. The paradox of unity and experience asks, how can a perfectly unified reality experience anything if there is no other? The answer is that unity divides itself into infinitely many centers of awareness that can look at each other and at the worlds they inhabit. Unity becomes both observer and observed through its own fragments. The paradox of part and whole asks, how can a soul be both finite and infinite? The answer is that at the level of essence, the soul is infinite awareness. At the level of lived experience, it is intentionally limited by the cosmic veil and by a world's rules. It is like a hologram, a small piece can still contain the whole pattern, but it appears with lower resolution. The paradox of motion and infinity, similar to Zeno's style, asks, how can infinitely many possible states fit into a single finite life? The answer is that each life is only one slice of a deeper infinite structure. There are infinitely many potential paths under the surface, the lived life is one actualized trajectory among countless unchosen ones. The paradox of belief and reality asks, if different people believe different things about God, afterlife, and meaning, how can they all fit into one universe? The answer is that in this model, there is not just one rigid universe. There is an infinite, layered reality in which beliefs themselves help generate branches of experience. A religious heaven, a skeptical nothing, and more complex spiritual states can all be realized as different regions of the same infinite field of being. In all these cases, paradoxes do not break the theory, they push it to the next level. Each paradox becomes a step in a logical staircase. Paradox leads to a deeper move, which leads to a wider view that includes both sides. This theory is not trying to say that all religions are false or that only this model is right. Instead, it suggests that religious images of God, heaven, hell, angels, and judgment can be seen as symbolic and partial descriptions of deeper structures in infinite reality. A personal God who rewards and punishes can be understood as one way the infinite unity appears within human minds under the cosmic veil, so that people can live, choose, hope, and fear in meaningful ways. The theory takes inspiration from several traditions. From Islamic mysticism and the idea of unity of existence, it takes the sense that behind all multiplicity there is one ultimate reality and that the world is a manifestation of that unity. From Neoplatonism, it takes the image of the one from which levels of being emanate and to which they can return. From modern monism and consciousness-centered views, it takes the intuition that reality is fundamentally one and that consciousness is not a side effect. From modern cosmology and multiverse ideas, it borrows the language of many possible worlds and scenarios. But infinite unity theory does not present itself as a simple collage of these influences. It weaves them into one continuous map. From 0 to 1, from 1 to infinity, from infinity to soul, world, death, and afterlife, and finally toward reintegration in a higher unity. In this sense, a believer can see their God and afterlife as one channel inside the larger spectrum, while a non-believer can see the same structure as an infinite field of awareness and worlds without being forced into a specific religious language. The theory does not place the human above God. It says instead, if the ultimate reality is truly infinite, then all our images of God are partial, and both the need for a supporting pillar and the desire to go beyond every pillar are themselves experiences that the infinite is having through us. Your fear, your faith, your doubt, your questioning, your love, and your search for meaning are all ways in which the same infinite unity is exploring itself through a finite window called you.